Okay, we are live, everybody. So check this out. Welcome to the Masters Monday podcast. Our special guest today is Brian Nunez. We'll get to his very long bio in just a second. But anyway, Brian Nunez, internationally recognized industry leader and award-winning presenter, inspiring coaches, companies, and clients all over the world to live a focused, fit, and free lifestyle. Now, we're going to get into all his accolades in just a second. But how are you, Brian?
I'm doing great, Shannon. It's absolutely amazing to connect with you today, man, and share some good vibes with you.
Absolutely. By the way, my kids were born in Lucille Packard's Children's Hospital in Palo Alto. Right there.
Right down the road, man. I love it.
Right down the road, man. I lived in Mountain View for about 4 years, and we'll get to all that fun. The connections that we do have, it's interesting. But listen, everybody who's on this podcast, just a best-selling author with Elevate to Great, Nike Master Trainer, SPRI Master Trainer, which is a leading fitness product company and programming company, lead ambassador for DEKAFIT. I want you to talk about that. Successful entrepreneur, of course, one of the most sought after coaches. And then we're going to get to the retreats and all that fun stuff because you're really spreading the message. You are not comfortable within your four walls, sir. You like to get out and spread that message, which I think is wonderful. But you do specialize in athletic performance, mental conditioning, business leadership, founder of the FNS Training Center. And I guess this was back 8 years and some change?
9 years and change, man.
Does that kind of blow your mind or no?
It's nuts. It feels like it was yesterday. And I'm so happy. I feel like a kid day one, especially now during these times. I feel like you're day one all over again.
You know what? We get to reflect, don't we? We get to kind of put all the pieces together and think about how that happened. But it's interesting. Silicon Valley's top training facility, going back to 2016, coming all the way forward every year to today, top training facility. And by the way, there's some serious training facilities in Silicon Valley, and was awarded Personal Trainer of the Year in 2019 by Idea World Fitness on stage. How was that process, big guy?
It was incredible, man, and just such a pay it forward moment from so many people that I have just learned, been mentored by in my career, sitting down in that audience, watching so many of leaders that I still look up to this day. Very surreal moment, but very honored. Very honored.
It's funny, you know, I'm half joking in this very stressful, anxious time, but I'm glad you got it in 2019, big guy, because this year.
Yeah, I know, man.
I mean, everything's wiped out. It's just unbelievable.
Exactly.
What happened. It really is. But listen, going back to your rise in industry, you know, I've been watching from the sidelines. And really, I kind of got to know you through the conventions and some of your workouts, your boot camps, and your presentations there. But it's been really interesting, and we'll get to the very beginning. But I want you to take us through. I think it's very fascinating to see people where they are today, and people may or may not understand that we were training clients by the hour just not so long ago, and we were figuring it out, and we were figuring out if we actually had the talent or the skill, or did someone see it in us because maybe we didn't even know that we had something special. Can you take us back to the very beginning of your career? You got about 5 minutes, and just bring us forward, man.
Yeah. So, you know, I think like a lot of trainers, this is not their number one focus at first. It comes like as like a hobby project. Like I like working out. I like moving. I like being active. So, you know, maybe I'll be a trainer. And that was really where my head was at when I went to play football at San Jose State. I majored in kinesiology, but and I did it because I'm like, I don't know what the heck I wanted to major in. I'm like, okay, well, I like exercise, so I'll major in that. And but my whole entire path since I was a kid was I wanted to be a firefighter. You know, ever since I saw the movie Backdraft. You remember that movie Backdraft?
Yeah,
way
man.
Back in the day. I would run around the house. And so I want to be a firefighter. And, you know, my brother's a firefighter. And so I was just like, this was just the path. I mean, since there was no other career I wanted to go down since I was a kid. So going through college, and after I was done playing football at San Jose State, you know, I was in the fire academy, got my EMT, I was doing all that stuff, but I needed to get a job, like to support myself. And I was like, okay, well, what do I know? I have a skill set. I got energy. I can train people. I know something, thing or two about movement science now. And so I started working as a personal trainer. And, you know, I was doing two things at once. I was doing EMT and the fire academy and the ride-alongs, and I was personal training. And so I saw two worlds, and I always knew, Chan, that I wanted to help people.
Yep.
You know, at a young age, I'm like, what do I want to do? Well, I'm going to be a firefighter, so I want to help people. And there's two types of helping people. There's proactive and there's reactive. And firefighter is very reactive, right? When there's a call, something goes down, like house on fire, they react, right? And they have to go, and thank God, bless them. Like, they need them. Like, we need them so much. And training is very proactive. You know, it's about longevity. It's about beating disease ahead of the game, right? Taking care of your body, being very proactive in our health. And I was going through this stuff in the fire academy, and I just realized, seeing both worlds, I said, you know what? It became more clear to me. I always knew I wanted to help people, but now I want to go down the path of proactively helping people. And it was that time when, you know, this was like 15 years ago, and even my parents were like, what are you doing? Like, personal trainer, what the heck is that? Like, how do you even make money on that? Like, how do you even make a living on that? You know, one is safe, secure, job security, longevity, retirement, like, you know, and the other one is like, what the hell are you doing? But I just listened to my gut, and I followed my passion. I said, I want to do what I love, and I love doing this. I love training people. Now, what I really loved more than anything was I didn't want to work with the sports athletes. What I found that I loved is I wanted to work with the everyday athletes, the moms, the dads, because for me, it was so much more fulfillment seeing that margin of growth than just getting an athlete a little bit faster. Like,
yeah, right. This versus this, you know? Exactly.
Like to have a mind shift of a mom or a dad or an engineer or somebody who's never played sports in their life to empower them to say, I am an athlete, was like the ultimate goal. And even in our facility, we have this giant, huge sign on our wall that says, you are an athlete. And from that day into what we have in our facility now is we really want to empower people to embrace the athlete that they are. And so, you know, that morphed into, you know, personal training, and I loved it. And I was all in, committed, and, you know, working literally like 12 clients a day. And I mean, I don't exaggerate when I say it's just boom, 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 boom. And that turned into small group, which was, you know, wasn't that big back then. And then that turned into a little larger group, into a point where, you know, I said, hey, I want to open up my own facility. I want to have a whole ecosystem that really embodies this fitness, never sleeps mindset of being an athlete on all levels, to brings us where we are today. And there's so many other things in that process where you invest in your education, and then somebody sees you do something, and then you end up, you know, getting these crazy chances to be a speaker or contribute. And so I think there's so many things that have happened in my career. I share that the first part with so much passion, because 15 years later, I'm still in the same spot. Like, when that new person comes in today, I would argue, Chan, that probably gives me even more joy than speaking on stage in front of hundreds of people.
You know what's interesting about that? We share that in common. And my trainers that I've managed over the years never understood this. I enjoy the first 2 weeks of a new client so much more than I do the 6th month. Yeah. I get goosebumps in the first 2 weeks, and then I kind of lose my goosebumps, man. You know, I'm still doing training. I'm still passionate. I still want them to go from 0 to 100. But those first 2 weeks, you can't put words on that. You know what I mean?
No, it's so powerful, because you respect and honor the courage and the bravery it took to get in. Like, they had contemplated that so much. They had drove in the parking lot and then left, and then looked online and then left. And I mean, so you empathize with that so much. And it's so beautiful, because you know that they're in a stage where it's like, if you believe right now, you can change your life. You can change everything.
Yeah, no question about it. So listen, going back to your 12 clients a day, eating 7 energy bars a day while you're actually doing reps with your mouth full of a Cliff Bar, because I did that in California as well. I lived in the northern Bay Area for 6 years. We'll get to that in a second. Tell me about the Club One experience. Was that the 12 clients a day? You're doing like 50 sessions a week. You're making decent money, but you are exhausted emotionally and physically. How was the corporate fitness experience for you personally?
Yeah, you know, corporate, I have so much respect because it raised me. And I think that I don't look at things as as good or bad experience, I'm so grateful for, right? And corporate, man, Club One, they gave me a chance. I was a young kid. I didn't have any experience. They took a shot on me. They let me be free. And what happens typically in the corporate world is that you've got freedom. You've got, like, I think in any world, it's not in any corporate world, in any sports world, anything, you have freedom. And then once you start to have success, that's when the restrictions start getting a little bit tougher on you.
Because they're paying attention now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And the restrictions come into not so much that they want to just hold you down, but what happens is you start creating new standards for yourself. They don't want to see those standards ever drop. And actually then they see the potential so much higher. So they're like, oh, you know what? This person like can go here. And one of the biggest things I learned from some of those things is that knowing how much to ring out and how much to support some key players in those situations. And so it was just an amazing experience. The things that I learned from so many great people, people who, like I said, took a shot at me. I think I will never, ever look bad or look at something negative from somebody who took a shot at me and gave me a chance. I would not be where I'm at today if I didn't learn all the things that from every single person.
No doubt. And even if it was just a springboard to the next thing, even if it was a 6-month period in your life, that still kept you on the trajectory. So I agree. You can't look back and poo-poo anything. You have to just know that there was some nugget of information you learned. There was a lesson and you learned it. Well, our common friend, connection, boss, one of the guys that gave you a chance, Pete Keating.
Pete, my man, I knew it. I knew Pete. Yeah,
one of my absolute best friends in the world, and he has taken me out and whipped my butt on a mountain bike several times. And,
yes, he's a beast on the bike, man.
Oh my, come on, this guy's no joke. But we go all the way back when I was the personal training manager of Club One in downtown Oakland, which was the biggest facility at the time. 3 levels, and Pete came by with his body fat test van and was doing hydrostatic weighing in the parking lot. This guy was hustling way back then, right? And that's where we started our friendship. And so he goes away. I moved to Florida. All of a sudden, he's interested in maybe being a manager for Club One. And so I made a few phone calls because I was there for 6 years as the Northern California regional fitness director, where Amy Boone Thompson, by the way, was the Southern California regional fitness director for the same company. So that's my connection to Amy. And so anyway, made a few phone calls. Pete was really hesitant. I don't know if I want to manage, but he went in and he ended up being a rock star manager for one of their biggest facilities, like down in Santa Clara, close to you. And so anyway, there's our common connection, brother.
I love Pete, man. Great guy. And I learned a lot from Pete. Pete was, I love that type of leadership where they're very transparent. They're very honest. And, it's one of my favorite sayings from a coach, Chan, is, and Pete really lived this, is be worried when I stop coaching you. I learned this early on from one of my coaches, and Pete's that type of guy, right? Type of leader that the greatest ones you can respect are the ones that are honest and transparent with you and tell you what you need to fix and tell you what you need to get better at.
You're exactly right. Yeah, and he will. If Pete's not giving you attention and giving you some love, or maybe even some tough love, trust me, he's losing value in you. You know what I mean?
100%.
He's always going to verbally and emotionally engage in you. If he's interested in your talent and thinks you have something special. And we were texting yesterday, Mother's Day and this and that. And anyway, still in contact with that guy a lot. All right. You ready? I want you to go back to when you knew you were going to do more in your career than just personal training 12 clients a day. Was it a moment, or was it a leap of faith and a conversation over a cold beer? Like, when did you know?
There's one time that I can think of. Early on, I went out to, there was this certification in this new program that was starting called Combine 360. And they had this thing, and it was this big kind of, brainchild that came out of IMG Academy, which is in Florida.
Yep.
And they did this thing at Idea World, and I'd gone to Idea World, and I'd seen Todd, and then Under Armour was back in this thing. You had all these big time coaches, and it was really cool because it was bringing more of that sports performance to the everyday athlete. And that was like the time in my career. I'm like, yes, this is my world. Like, I don't want to just be working with sport athletes. I want the sport performance to the everyday athlete. And so I was like, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to go out there and, I saved up all my nickels, and that was like $2,000 was like, whoa, it was a lot even back then, to go out there and fly to Florida. And so I went out there and I was part of this first class, and there was about 200 of us, trainers from all around the world. And I was at IMG Academy, and I'm looking at this, and they have everything there at IMG Academy, mental conditioning, nutrition. It's like the Juilliard of sports performance. Totally. And it's even more grandiose now, but back then it just blew my mind. And I remember being there, and I that was when I really thought, saying, this is the concept that I believe fitness never sleeps. Fitness is a mindset that never sleeps. It's just your mindset. It's nutrition. It's training. Fitness is a way of life. And so exactly. And it was then that I was like, you know what? I think I can really build something more for people. And I think this is a big thing to call out, Chan, because I think that people think that in terms of personal training, like, I don't want to just be a personal trainer, or I don't want to just do this, and it wasn't for me saying, I want to be more than that. At the end of the day, and I just had a conversation with my buddy, especially right now, like I've been training more now during this time than I have in years. And I love it, man. And I've actually never been so happier as a coach, because I missed being in the trenches so much, man. I'm a trainer. And I used to put all these fancy things on it, like elite high performances. Dude, at the end of the day, I'm a trainer, and I love it. And it was about, how can I provide more for people? Mm-hmm. And so that's really what it was during that time. And I went to IMG Academy. When I got out of my box, see, what happens is that when you live in the four walls that you're in all the time, mm-hmm. that becomes your fitness industry. Mm-hmm. And where a lot of fitness professionals get stuck is because that's all they see as the fitness industry, is the four box that they live in. Yeah. So that from the other trainers they work in. So you got to get out of the box. You got to surround yourself with other fit pros. You got to look at different systems. You got to be humble enough to collaborate with other people to see what's working well for them. And that's what it was for me.
You're exactly right. But here's the lesson in this, because I want the listener, because there'll be listeners in every part of the trajectory in their career on this podcast, right? There's going to be people that are in 2 years into this, figuring it out, 10 years, there'll be, executives that hear this podcast. It is painful, but you have to invest to go to IMG, as an example, just an example only. You have to invest and go do that. Because in about 2000, I thought through my NASM, my ACE, and I became a provider of education for NASM and ACE before AFA got involved. And I thought I knew some stuff. I really did. You know what I mean? I was a regional director. I was educating 160 trainers in my region. So you get comfortable. And then I go spend 3 days at Cal State Fullerton with Tom Purvis with RTS. And I realized I didn't know jack.
Yeah.
So I go there and I'm just like, oh man, I got a bunch of people to call. You know what I mean? Like, this is crazy. Yeah. So, but that was a very expensive 3 days, but it changed my career from a movement science perspective. And I came back after that investment. But if you don't do that, at least, I don't know if it's every year, but it's at least every 2 years. I'm just giving you my subjective opinion. Go do that crazy, expensive, probably mind-blowing thing that is going to do what it did for you. And this isn't the right way to say it, Brian, but you saw holes in your game. Am I correct or no?
100%.
Right.
And you learn, what you're truly investing in Shannon, is you're investing in figuring out what you didn't know you didn't know. Like, that's it. Like, that's what I'm looking for. Like, I know what I don't know. Like, there's the pie chart of our knowledge, right? You know what you know, and that's like microscopic. Yeah. And then you know what you don't know, which is more than that. Like, I know that I don't know how to build a house. I know that I don't know how to, fix stuff. And then I don't know what I don't know. It's even bigger. And then when I get into that aspect, like, oh my God, I didn't even know that I didn't even know this. Yeah, that's where it becomes, it's huge. Yeah, that's like the biggest piece of the pie.
Yeah.
And you can grow so much.
That's good stuff. Now let's go back to your mentors. Talk about one or two And sometimes it's just a summary of parts, right? You're in this for 10, 12, 15 years. It's a summary of parts. And then sometimes there's people that stand out. And I just gave you one of mine. Tom Purvis redirected me into so much more aggressive learning because I realized, God, man, you have so much more to learn about movement science. Were there one or two specific ones that really kind of motivated and inspired? Yes, but taught you things about how to be a better leader in the fitness industry?
Yeah, I think the first one is, and it is for so many people, is Todd Durkin. You know, when I first saw him on stage, and when I first saw him, I just felt such a energetic, ethical and value connection with him, from not just the way he taught classes energy, but as a family man, as a business owner, the way he operated and did things. And I think when you look at mentors, the biggest thing that I would suggest to people is don't look at their success, look at how they operate. Because people say, oh, I like this person, all the things that they have, their house, their gym, this. Yeah, but you may not like how they got there. And that to me is always the mark of of the people that I really want to surround myself as mentors. I want to see how they operate on a day-to-day basis. If I like that style, then yes, obviously they're going to have some success because they got my attention. But after you get my attention, that's not good enough anymore, the success. I want to see how you're operating. So Todd showed me a way that where you can, where he's still in the fight and he's still leading the charge. And I really love that about him, because that's how I never wanted to, like, for me, it's that I would rather, if you're going to call me I would rather you call me just a trainer than a presenter or a speaker, because I'm more of a battle. I'm more of a battle coach. Like, I want to be like, I have
physical. Hey, you're physical, tactile.
Yeah, I want to be in the fight.
Yeah,
totally. I'm like Leonidas. Like, I want to be in the fight. I don't want to be in the tower, like just looking down. Like, I want to go to battle with our coaches, our athletes. And the second person is Steve Schembaum. I met Steve through IMG, and he's been such a huge mentor of mine. Steve empowered my voice. Man, Chan, I've spoken in front of thousands of people. I've done countless amounts of speaking events, keynotes, major companies, billion-dollar organizations. Dude, this was the biggest fear I ever had growing up, was public speaking. Like, I never would have, a million years, ever would want to speak in public.
Wow.
And this guy has a magic, a way of empowering people and getting them to be their true, authentic self. And so it was, Todd showed me that energy. Passion. Steve kind of empowered the voice and to be me. And those two and they both were at my retreat last year. I had them, like, it was a bucket list of mine. Like, could I have my two biggest mentors come to my retreat and present? And it was like, so if I never have a retreat again, I'm good.
You're good.
I gave back to the people there. So
I think that's great. And watching how people succeed is a very interesting detail I don't want our listeners to overlook, because some people will get and gain success through cerebral. Some people will do it very passionately with their voice. They're demonstrative. They're this, they're that. Other people do it with an intellectual programming. There's a lot of different paths you can take to be successful, but you found a guy who kind of fit your natural skill set, and then you expanded on it. Is that fairly true?
Yeah, it's 100%.
Yeah. I mean, he was in line with what you were doing already. And I think it takes courage to be you. And I think that's maybe what Steve, helped you with. It takes a lot of courage to just say, if they're going to accept me for me, and that's it. But because you can only act like your mentor or act like someone else for so long. And I think that's going to catch up to you, I think.
And that is the ultimate, that is the most courageous act that any human being can act with. And it's my favorite quote of all time by Ralph Waldo Emerson, is to be yourself. The greatest thing you can do is to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else. Like, that is the greatest battle you will ever fight.
Yeah.
And so many people deal with that, right? The insecurity of what will people say, what will people do. I mean, that is the greatest act of courage, is to be authentically and unapologetically you in every environment. And it's the most empowering thing once you get to that stage.
All right, brother. That's great stuff. All right. Let's talk about, it's a great lead in to question 3. Your personality. The FNS Training Center seemed to be culturally driven, and I interacted with you a little bit a couple of days ago about this. Would you agree that culture is a big piece of yours? And was this a conscious master plan in your vision to change lives, or is that just who you are, man?
So first part of that is culture is everything. Culture, culture will lead strategy for breakfast is what we say around here.
Yes.
You can have a great strategy, but if your culture isn't strong, like it's going to be tough.
Yep.
But there's two types of cultures, and I really want people to understand this. I really, really want people to understand this. There's service culture and there's business culture. And early on, we used to just be very service culture based, and we remain service culture based when it comes to our service product and our operations. And for us, there's a certain level of values that we live by. Like our 5 values that we don't make any decisions off of when we serve our clients, and we make a decision. Number one is we be authentic, do the right thing, always do the right thing, even if that means a short-term loss for us. It'll be a long-term gain. We do the right thing. The second thing is that we practice what we preach, right? Like nobody likes a hypocrite. Nobody wants to hear from a coach that isn't doing everything that they say that they're having their clients do.
Credibility's on the line.
You got to look the part. You better live the parts. Nobody wants to take advice from a broke financial advisor, right? On their money. Like no one wants to take advice from a trainer that ain't living the lifestyle they're preaching. Number 3 is play with passion. Yeah. Do what you love. Show up every single day with that enthusiasm. Leave your stuff at the door. Like this is about other people. 4 is consistent communication. You got to constantly communicate effectively with people.
People are really
make it simple.
People are really bad at this.
Terrible. That's the biggest failure, man, is the communication piece.
But you know what, Brian?
And the simple communication.
Yes, extremely simple, but it has to be timely and it has to get to the point. I'm amazed. I'm old school, but I'm still amazed, even though knowing that I'm old school, because I have a 16 and an 18-year-old. You'll know one day, sir. That the lack of interpersonal communication skills and being able to project an idea, specifically an emotion, whatever, we are really losing that generationally with text messaging and Snapchatting and everything. I'm really worried, sincerely worried about the 15 to 25s. I truly am, at their inability. I joked with Pete the other day. We break up with girlfriends now by texting them. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to make that call, dude. Remember, we used to have to make that call.
Yeah, exactly, man.
I'm joking, but the point is, I'm really worried about the communication piece.
Yeah, I think though it is, Chan, is that people, I don't fault it because people aren't taught it. And communication is a science. There's different ways we were learned. The way we were brought up, it was like hard. Hey, say thank you. Do this. Like it was like you gotta like on the spot. Like your dad was my dad was calling my ass out. Like I'm not saying please or thank you. But it's ways of stepping back, and part of what we go through in a lot of our culture is communication training. But how do you communicate to the beginner? How you communicate to the beginner is different than you communicate to the intermediate athlete. How you communicate to the intermediate athlete is different than you communicate to the veteran athlete.
Yes.
And there's certain goals and strategies and tactics that you want to use with each. And things that you and I may think is second nature is not second nature. But I don't fault the person. I don't fault the person who doesn't know. I fault the person who didn't teach that person. Now, if I teach you and you don't do it, then we got another issue. But then it's objective.
Another whole conversation.
And that comes into the business side of culture, where, I talk about those 5, like those 4, 4 was consistent communication, and number 5 is protect your team. Like you always protect this house, you protect your teammates, you protect your athletes, no gossip, no drama, no negativity. If you hear something and you don't stop it, you're just as much part of the problem. You're equally as if you created it. Now, the business culture side of things, it's really 2 parts, the way we look at our business. Don't mistake activity for achievement. When it comes to business culture, we look at performance. Mm-hmm. Like we look at results. And I always would talk to my staff. Like there's a service side of stuff, and then there's like when we're in our boardroom management meetings and saying, I don't care how many hours you worked. That is not a sign of achievement.
We're working hard.
The sign of achievement is, did we chase?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me the results. Right? And in fact, I would rather have you come in and brag about how little time it took for you to accomplish big results.
There you
Because
go.
most people are programmed the other way. Let me tell you how long I worked. What'd you get done? Nothing. Well, that's not our culture here. We lead with results. We lead with activity. We lead with achievement. We measure objectively, right? We create plans, we work plans, and we don't deviate from the plans.
Right.
And that is our business culture. So I think that that's where at times where we got soft in our business, where we weren't able to push, is because we only focused around the service side, but they're two different worlds. That's how I deliver to my consumer. That's how I deliver to my customer, is the service culture. But how we need to deliver with each other on the back end is we need to hold each other to a very high standard. That when it comes to business, and I mean, this is what we're talking about, Chan, like anybody who's in business watching this, I'm sure is charging for clients or trying to run an organization. Well, this is how a business is run.
Yes.
A business isn't, you know, like I can't go, no one's paying me for, you know, working hard at night.
Well,
I got to deliver in the market.
You can't tell your clients, I need you to work 12 hours a day, service the hell out of our consumer, and we'll just hope that the finances work out. We'll just hope and pray that the finances work out. You really do have to split your brain as a leader and a manager and an owner, for sure.
Exactly. So those two aspects, you know, they really drive it. It becomes objective, right? Like, I'm not bigger than our culture. And I think that's the biggest thing for anybody who's a manager, who's a leader, who's an owner. Like, I'm not bigger to a culture. Like, if I ever break our culture, I've told this to our team time and time again, you have, if it comes to culture, no one's bigger than it. You have the right and authority. I don't care if you're a junior or a senior to call me out saying, dude, Brian, you broke this culture. You broke this thing. Because I have skin in the game, and I will not be a dictator to be like, oh, well, this is my, no, we all have the reverence for the culture. The culture guides organization. I may be the leader who's driving the ship, but I'm not going to be the hypocrite because I break our value number 3 of telling y'all to do one thing and I do something else.
You know
so
what?
I think that's
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Brian. You seem like a blue collar guy who likes to be down on the floor, mixing it up, getting sweat all over him. So I don't think there's any worries on your culture, big guy. I think you're going to be just fine.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, you like to be in the mix, in the mosh pit too much. Well, let me ask you how you got started and why you got started on the retreat aspect of your career.
You know, the retreats came about from a lot of people asking. I've been to so many different retreats. I've been to different stuff. You know, I've been to Todd's masterminds, and I love it. I understood the value of it, of being around, getting away, completely breaking the script in all aspects, like away from your business. You know, we talk about this all the time. People don't grow because they only work in their business. They never work on their business. So if you're not growing, it's probably because you're only in your business and you're never working on it. Yeah. And so, even in my mentorship, working with clients and now doing business coaching and business mentorship, I never actively went to seek that out. That wasn't something that I was like, I want to start doing this now. People said, hey, I want you to mentor me. I want you to coach me. I'll pay you to coach me. It was never, ever the main focus for me to do that. And even retreats, hey, can we do something where we get away? The market started asking. Now what happens is that when you start getting momentum, you're going to get opportunities. And you have to decide, do those opportunities align with your strategies? And your strategies are typically aligned to your vision and then your values. So that's why vision and values are so important. So when people started asking me, hey, will you mentor me? Will you coach me? I want to pay you to be my business coach. That was not even part of my original plan. But my vision was to help impact the lives of millions of people. So just because I didn't write business coaching down didn't mean that it meant that it was going to present itself in a different way. So that I knew if I could coach this person who has an audience of, 1,000 members, well, then I'm aiding in my vision of helping millions of people around the world. Because if I can help this leader, then they can help this person. And so that's where it started clicking for me. And so doing the retreats, I knew the value of getting away. I'm very selective. They actually have to apply because I only take in 12 people for 3.5 days, full on deep dive immersion, because I want people who genuinely want to make big impact in their communities, because it's not my main job. Like, that to me is like a way of investing in my vision and our fitness community to help create and empower the next group of leaders.
And you know what, man, look, I've not led retreats. I've been a part of them as a subset of, there's the guy or girl, and then there's a subset of leaders who are working different breakout sessions. I've done a lot of that stuff, but I've never actually led one or created one on my own. It is a humongo responsibility. So you should be selective. It should completely and totally be in line with your vision and values, because it is such a huge responsibility. And Brian, to me, there's risk in being the guy up there talking to a retreat. Don't you think?
100%. I mean,
you gotta deliver.
It is such a challenge. You have people coming from all over the world. I mean, we have, literally flying from Brazil and Europe and all over the place who are putting their trust, like literally scratching pennies together to get there. I mean, the people that have made the investments to come out. So, you want to deliver, right? And for me, it's never about, I would never put myself in a position that was just solely about the money. I think that, when it comes to things like that, you have to charge, but this is why investing is so important, Chan. This is my view on investing. I never want a discount. Me personally, I never want a discount. Don't give me a discount when it comes to a personal investment. The reason is, the more I pay, the more I'm invested. Like, when I pay for something, I am like, dude, I'm into it. Like, I paid this money. I'm going to be taking notes every 2 seconds. But if you give it to me for free, I'm like, I could take it or leave it. It's going to. So personal investment is so huge. And so
that's very good.
Yeah, it becomes a massive impact thing.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful, because $39.99 gives you so much focus. $399 gives you a whole different level of focus if you're the actual purchaser, right? And that goes for us too. You're talking about clients that are coming to retreats, but that goes for me and you as well. If I'm going to pay top dollar for something, there's an expectation. And I think that's an interesting psychological point you just made there, to not discount it. And if 10 people come, we'll drop it $100. You know what I mean? No, it has the exact same values it did 10 minutes ago before we hit 10 people. So I think it's a great thing. So let me ask you this, man. I got 2 left for you. How are your preparations going for reopening FNS?
It is a process. I think that, we've adopted the same type of structure that we are getting right now from the state and from the government, is working in phases. Without getting into too specifics of how things are looking for us, it is going to be in phases, and we're looking at whether this is going to be 3 phases, 4 phases. We're definitely not going to be the first. I can say that we're not going to be the first to open our doors. Right. We're definitely not going to be the last. Okay. But we want to see how this thing. We want to see how this thing works, right? We want to put ourselves. I will share this with people. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, I can't wait to open up our doors," but I'll share this. Don't open up your doors. And I made this to our team, compromising and diluting your experience that you've had as a brand beforehand. Because opening up your doors are going to be a whole different ball game in terms of the rules, what you can do. Yeah. And the last thing that we want to do is open up our doors and make it feel so much, and have the new taste in people's mouth way worse than it was before.
Yeah, and man, there's a lot of detail in that statement right there. And I think not sitting back, and it looks like you're going to kind of watch some others do that and see how it plays out, because you can learn from that, and then do this really smart, so the experience is just as personal, just as amped up as they were 45 days ago. And there's going to be a real science to this. There's going to be a lot of discussions. I'm sure you're going to have many, many discussions with your team about the details and what all that means, because that is a whopper of a conversation with your team, is how do you emotionally, physically, mentally keep it at the highest level when they start trickling in the door again. There's going to be a lot of ebooks written on that subject.
For sure, man. Yeah, and I think that's it, right? If people just come down, I think, and I want to just encourage everybody who's listening to this, is that, you're not like industry. You guys are not. We're not in the just pure exercise business. It's the experience business, and exercise is a part of that experience. But so is environment, so is energy, so is engagement, and so is empathy. So if we don't have all of these things locked in to truly create a great experience for people, then we could put ourselves in a very detrimental situation.
You could take 3 steps back for sure. You know, the culture, the vibe, the expectation could go 3 steps back. And then I think the ebook here's your idea. The secret sauce. You don't want to lose it, right? Don't lose the secret sauce.
Exactly,
and
man.
You work
that's it.
9 years, you know? So, yeah. All right, close us out, man. What's your message to your FNS family?
Oh my gosh, my FNS family.
I know, put you on the spot.
Yeah, I have had many huddles with our team about the reverence, the respect for all of them. I have thanked them, and I thank them for re-inspiring me to get back to my roots of what I love most: coaching, training, serving, showing up every single day. I do not take this opportunity for granted. In a time right now, it is crazy. I never thought in a time like this, I would be more inspired to serve and to make the impact that I'm making every single day. And that's what this is all about. You know, we see what we really are about when you take all our resources. You see what somebody is really all about when you take everything away from them. And I'll say this, Chan, because I said this in so many talks before, and I say this all the time. I said, you know, you can take it all away from me. If you took away my gym, if you take away, and who would have thought, man, that it would ever have been the case? But that's how you really audit how passionate you are. And when people are ready to show up and get better, oh my God, that gets me out of bed every single day. So I love my family, the greatest team community in the world.
I love it. Well, listen,
that's it, man.
Serious, strong insight to what's in the brain of Brian Nunez. I really appreciate your time, brother. It is very valuable. I can't believe I got this much time. I feel honored. And I hope that you and I can connect. I know that Idea World Convention, I was scheduled to do a 2-hour presentation on Saturday in Anaheim at this year's Idea World, but they're looking at some virtual convention stuff, which is going to be very interesting. I'm not sure how many hundreds of presentations they're going to do. But anyway, hopefully we can connect virtually, and until we can get together physically and share a handshake and say hello to each other, man. I appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for all you're doing for this industry, man. Your reputation.
It's been a long way. Hey, Carrie and I got 50 years in this thing, and we ain't stopping anytime soon. All right. Hey, I'm going to stop the recording, but hang on for about 60 seconds, Brian.